The west side of Columbus is no stranger to community engagements. Driving down Broad Street, you'll see various community murals, and today's guest is no stranger to collectives. Daryl Murphy, also known as Stretch, has made himself a presence in the running space, but not out of pride or hubris. One of Daryl's gifts is the ability to gather, the talent to not only organize movement, but establish a continuance of healthy bonds and relationships after. Daryl is a cultivator of community. Let's dive right in. I remember one of the first times I had met you. It was over in Dublin, if I'm not mistaken, and that's been quite a few years since then. And just seeing your impact around the community, around the people you're involved with your family, has been really inspirational, to say the least. One thing I remember of our conversations and interactions we've had was your pivot from Nike to the Easton Collective, or Easton Run Club more so. And things didn't, things were changing and you had to pivot. But one thing you really was really important to you was keeping the community active, keeping the community together, and making sure that they remain consistent as part of that. And I thought that was really, really important, especially nowadays. So my question to you is, what does community mean to you? And how does that influence your running journey?
Community. Community to me is like, first and foremost, just like a group of individuals, oftentimes like-minded individuals, oftentimes working toward a similar purpose or working for a similar goal. So community, when it comes to running, is something I've always wanted in running. Like running, it is an individual sport, because when you're out there running, you're by yourself. No one can run the miles for you. You have to run the miles. But it's so much team within running. And I don't think people don't realize that if they haven't been running or if they're not out there running. So the community aspect for me, I believe we can always go farther. We can always go faster when we're with others, when we're with community. And for me, kind of to your point about keeping the community together, I saw so many people who were just getting into the sport. So many people who were just getting off the couch. So many people who didn't consider themselves to be runners or didn't say, I'm a runner, but they're coming out every week and they're running, right? Mainly because of community, because of this shared experience that we all have each week. And that's so important, because a lot of people won't get up and just go run by themselves. But if they know, I got this group of people that's going to be there on Tuesday at 6:30 that I can go run with. And if I don't show up, they're going to be like, where are you? Where were you?
Yeah.
So now people are getting up and they're going to run. So that's community for me. Because as you know, like I'm on a run streak, right? So I run every day. But for the first year of that run streak, I might have ran with somebody else maybe like 3 times.
I didn't know that, actually.
And 365. And now I'm being generous with that. I wanted to say I ran every single day by myself.
Yeah.
But I think I might have had a couple runs with other people during that time. So that was tough, man. And at that point, I just yearned for community so much. All I wanted was community. I saw things on the internet, people having large communities and real community. And it was COVID during that time, so there wasn't a whole lot of group activities. And I wasn't really involved in the run community like I am now. But that's why community is so important to me, because I know what it's like to run alone, And I also know what it's like to run with a group of individuals but still feel like you're alone, which is another reason like we try to make this community so supportive and so encouraging.
That makes sense. So if there was 3 key things you like to instill in your community work, especially in terms of running, if you had to give 3, so to speak, what would be your 3 priorities in establishing and keeping that continuance of community within the run walk community?
Yeah, I think number 1 for me around community is just good energy. Just trying to make sure you bring good energy. Like we all have so many things going on in our daily lives that are causing us stress, giving us strife, But when you show up in a group environment if you can just bring good energy, because you don't know what that other person's going through.
That's true.
They may be going through something 10, 100 times as worse as you, or what you think they're going through. So if you can just bring good energy, that's going to leave a positive impact on them. Like, it's not really about the run. It's not really about the walk. It's just about bringing good energy, because that's going to lead people to want to run or want to walk.
Yeah.
So I would say for me, that's number one, is good energy. I think that's kind of like all encompassing of everything. If I had to think of two others, for community, the other one would be consistency. So just being consistent, because I think we can accomplish anything with consistency. It's like,
I'd agree.
One of those sayings, like you're hitting the hammer 100 times, 1,000 times, and it never cracks, but it's that 1,001 hit and it all shatters, and you don't know when that's going to happen, but that happens through consistency. So I think, like, if you can show up for your community consistently, and your community can show up consistently, like, you can really move mountains. You can really change the world.
Wow.
And you never know when that moment of change is going to happen, when that moment of impact is going to happen. So definitely good energy, definitely consistency. And what would be the third one? That's a good question. So the third pillar for me around community and the run walk, good energy, consistency. And then the third, I think, would be collectively, right? Knowing that it takes all of us. Like, we can't do this individually. Like, I don't do this individually. Like, it takes a group of people. It takes a collective. And, like, we all pick each other up. We all help each other out.
Yeah.
Right? So just knowing that, like, when you're talking about a group, you're talking about community. Like, you may do something very small, but it has a large impact. You may, like, bring a water bottle for someone, and you don't even know that person did not have any water, and it's game changing. Right. Because you finish a run, you're hot, you're sweaty, and there's no water. It's like the worst day ever, and now you're not coming back.
Right. Yeah.
You get that water, it quenches your thirst, and you're like, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
So it's like just really knowing that each person in the community has a role, and each person in the community has a purpose. And each person in the community can add value to the group collectively. And, like, if we all take on that ownership of adding value, of doing something, that just strengthens the whole entire group. So that's what I would say. Like, good energy, number one. Number two, consistency. And then number three, collectively. Just working together as a team, as a unit.
That makes sense. So then it leads me to my last question is, what really... You talked about what it means to you, about community, and what really drives you for that. Is there a community that that supports you to help push through? I'm trying to think of the right word to put for it. I guess it's more so, what is your backbone, so to speak, in the sense of, you push so much out for the community and things like that. And is there any people or anything that helps motivate you to really drive towards that community initiative? Because I think all of us who do some kind of community work or some kind of volunteering, anything of that nature, it's us pouring out into others. It's us sacrificing something of us. So I guess that what would be your support system, or what is your, what do you do to help refill back in from what you devote? Because it does take a lot of time, as you mentioned. It does take a lot of effort. But what do you do to help push towards that, or through that, especially for those? And this is more so for anyone looking to get into that community aspect and start to realize how much time and dedication would work. That's actually a good way to frame the question, is what do you feel that you need to help support in your mission towards community?
I think that's so important, because when you do any type of community work, burnout is real.
Yeah.
Right? And that kind of goes back to that consistency point. Right? Doing a little bit every day and not trying to do it all at once. Right? So for me, one of your points there was like inspiration.
Yeah.
So I get inspiration from everywhere, from so many different places. Like, all the run clubs in the city, I get inspiration from. Run clubs across the country, run leaders across the country, I get inspiration from. So I love to see other people, other run clubs doing well, other run communities thriving, right? because
good
that
point.
lets me know like this entire global run community is growing, right?
Mhm.
That only helps all of us out,
Right.
right? So whenever I can look on the internet and see someone in, out in Chicago, right, or out in Los Angeles, right,
Mhm.
and they're doing some amazing things with their community, that gives me inspiration. Like, man, we can bring that right here to Central Ohio,
Mhm.
So I love to see that and get that from them. To the point about like how do I like avoid burnout, or what do I need to be supported? It's tough. It's
Mhm.
very tough. I try to be strong mentally and
Mhm.
tough mentally. So I listen to a lot of like motivational talk, inspirational talk,
Okay. Yeah.
like self-development talk and things like that. Probably like my number one guy is like Jim Rohn. I don't know
Okay.
if you've heard of him before.
No, I have not.
But
My self motivation game is trash. But
no,
I'm gonna have to look that up. Yeah.
no, Jim Rohn is like a legend. He was like probably
Oh, wow.
one of the first ones to do it in the U.S.
Okay.
So he came up in like, the 70s and the 80s, doing this self-talk. And a guy introduced me to him when I was like 20 years old,
Wow.
so I've been listening to him for like 15 years now. And
Mm.
anytime I'm going through a dark period in my life, I can just kind of cue him up
Wow.
and he can get me right back on track, So big shout out to Jim Rohn. He's no longer with us anymore, but he's been like monumental in my life. But I think as well, it's just being able to talk with others in the community, other leaders in the community, because everyone's going through challenges. Everyone's having struggles, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I had to learn and I had to grow with was sharing that. I could still struggle with that, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, me being a leader in the community, people want to help. People want to help, but they can only help if you tell them, if you let them know. Right?
Right.
So, and I can struggle with that because I know I can't do this by myself. I know I need everyone.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I want more people to help, more people to be hands-on. But I do struggle sometimes with like delegating. Like I need you to do X, Y, Z because I don't know if you're good at X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So that's something that I do struggle with. But being able to like just say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I need some help, because I've realized most people, especially in this run community, are very good-hearted people.
Yeah.
And they want to help and they want to see things thrive and succeed, but they want to know how they can help. So as a leader, it's on me, it's on us to be able to better communicate that to the group. So yeah, that's kind of it for me. Like going back to that self-talk, can kind of get me on track when I am struggling through things. And then also giving myself grace. Like, we put these artificial deadlines on ourselves so much.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I should have had that done a month ago, a year ago, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, we can't control anything in the past. We can only control today moving forward.
Right.
So it's like, if I don't get that done today, it sucks. I'm disappointed, but let me focus on how I can get that done tomorrow. Or even if I can't get it done tomorrow, how do I make progress on it tomorrow?
Right.
Is a big thing. So I've definitely learned to give myself some grace when it comes to those things over the years. But really, it's just about doing something very small every single day, right? Because a little bit of progress is so much better than no progress.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even multiply it. It's 10, 100, 1,000x.
Wow.
It's doing something versus doing nothing. Because anything multiplied by zero is
Zero.
So it's like if you just do the smallest thing, And for me, I could say a thing that can help me out is when I like do some strength training. Because I run so much, I'm always running.
Yeah.
But like if I can get in the gym and just lift some weights or do some push-ups or do some pull-ups or something like that, and mentally it's a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think like that action always leads to more action. It's like an object in motion stays in motion.
Right.
So the biggest thing is just getting off the couch and getting started.
That's facts.
Because if we're sitting on the couch, we start wallowing, we start feeling sorry for ourselves.
Yep.
We start blaming other people, you know what I mean?
Making all excuses in the world.
So many excuses, you know what I mean? And that doesn't help at all.
No.
That never helps, That just sends us down the rabbit hole further down. So for me, yeah, those are the things, man. Like really just being able to lean on the community, say I need help, being able to look out there in the world at all the other people who are being successful, all the other people who have overcome challenges. So that's why I really like to see out in the world so much, because you see whatever I'm dealing with, someone else has already dealt with that.
Right.
And they've overcome it, so I can learn from their mistakes, or I can learn from, their success, and apply that to whatever is going on in my life at the time.
Wow, that's a lot. That was actually really good. You learn something new every day. It's crazy. But I think that really speaks to, how much effort it really takes to really foster healthy communities. I think anyone can gather a group together. Anyone can get people together, but to have people show up the first time and have people repeatedly show up is a talent in its own. And I think that's one of the things that, me personally speaking, that inspires me from you. That's where your natural ability to gather people and to have them keep gathering is truly a talent in its own. It's ridiculously easy to get people together, but that consistency, especially when it comes to running and walking, and as we've both seen with your various groups, whether it be for Miles for Justice, whether it be Easton Run Club, the Juneteenth thing that you were part of as well this week with Move Together, having and witnessing your ability to gather people, encourage them, and to have them continue to show up because they belong into a community. That sense of belonging and making people feel belonged or like they're welcomed and that they belong there is truly a talent that a lot of people sometimes can underestimate how much effort it does to foster that.
Yeah.
So I personally thank you for inspiring me and educating me on how to really keep communities healthy and active throughout the year. That's actually all that I have. Was there any other things you want to add on to that? Anything you want to pass off? Any other encouragement, or it could be community driven, or it could be just from your personal experience. Anything you want to share?
Yeah. I think what you mentioned there, that sense of belonging, was key. And another word that came to me was authenticity. Really just being authentic within the community. And I thought about one other thing that I do is journaling.
Oh,
journaling helps me out a lot. So actually, I'll so I got my books here, right?
Oh, snap! You about to read?
Yeah. I'm not gonna read, but from my run streak, I think today was day 1,895 or 96.
1,895.
But every single run is in the book, though. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
Every single run is in the book here that I've ever done. And then obviously now we're on to a new book here.
Oh, so we moved over new pages? That's crazy.
So we're just getting into this one, now. But every single run, all 1,895 days are in these books. So being able to write there just about the runs. And I started off just putting the runs in there, like 3.71 miles, 9:25 pace, you know what I mean? But now I actually write something to remember the run, Sunday run at the boathouse, sweltering heat, 95 degrees, you know what I mean?
Out here cooking.
Yeah, out here cooking, So something to remember the run. So like being able to just at the end of the day, end of the week, decompress and write it in the journal really helps me reset and stay focused on what actually the goal is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we get so distracted, by just nonsense, and noise, right? So this really helps me key in on, that's the goal. So all of this over here isn't helping me move in that direction.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter.
Right.
Why am I giving my time and my energy to it? But absolutely, my biggest thing in the run community is to try to create that sense of belonging. Let people know that they are runners. You belong in this space. And this space wouldn't be it without you. You are what make this space, And I just thank literally everyone in the community for rocking with me, because there's so many different things we could be doing with our lives. You know what I mean? So when people take that step to put their health and wellness first and move their body, whether they're walking, whether they're running, whether they're jogging, that's monumental.
It is.
You know what I mean? That's honestly the most important thing, because you can't take care of your family if you're not healthy. You can't do your job at work if you're not healthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you laid up in the hospital bed, you can't be of service to anyone.
Right.
You know, so like taking care of our own wellness, our own body, our own temple is most important, and that's just what we try and get across to everybody. You know, so but thank you, man, for everything you do in the
Oh,
community as
I'm
well.
just here
Like,
for
you know,
friendship. That's
this safe space running is dope, man. You know, I gotta commend you for it,
Oh,
being
thank
able to
you.
tell these stories. 'Cause a lot of these stories don't get told. You
Yeah.
know, and so many people have great stories.
They do. They
You know,
do.
everyone has a great story.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's just everyone doesn't always know how to tell their story best. You know, but everyone has a great story.
Agree.
I just challenge y'all to figure out the best way to tell your own story.
That's awesome. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time. And
Of course.
where can people find you? What you got
You can
lined up
find
next?
me every Tuesday at Eastern Run Club, 6:15. We meet up, 6:30. We start at Penn's Mechanical Easton. That's where you can find me in the flesh. If you want to find me on the internet, it's at Stretch Murphy, whether that's Instagram, whether that's Strava. You can even find me on TikTok and YouTube, even though I don't post.
Awesome. Well,
But
again,
yeah.
I'm just genuinely honored to have this conversation with you. Like, I've learned a lot taking it in myself as well. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Everything that you do. Again, we've got Daryl Stretch Murphy here. Please find him. And if you need a 5K every day, this is your guy.
Hey, let's go. Let's go.